You don't feel sad, at least not in the way people describe sadness. You wake up, you function, you answer messages, you do what needs to be done. And yet, something feels off. Like you're standing still while everything else keeps moving. Like the noise of the world is there, but it doesn't reach you the same way anymore. You've tried to name it. You've searched for the word that explains why your chest feels heavy, but not broken. Why you're tired even when you haven't done anything. Why you crave distance without knowing what you're trying to escape. And the strange part is, you can't point to a single reason. Nothing bad enough has happened. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would justify this quiet weight you're carrying. So you start wondering if you're just overthinking, if you're ungrateful, if you're slowly losing motivation. But listen carefully. When your feeling doesn't behave like sadness. Sadness usually aches, that it cries, that it wants to be seen. This feeling doesn't. It goes silent. It makes you feel blank instead of broken. You're not drowning in emotion. You're floating above it. Detached. Watching yourself live instead of fully being there. You laugh at the right moments. You say, "I'm fine," without lying, because in some strange way, you are fine, just not present. You notice it in small moments. When something good happens and your reaction feels delayed. When someone talks to you and you hear the words, but they don't land. When you sit alone and feel the urge to do something, anything, but nothing feels worth starting. It's like your inner world pressed pause without asking you. People might tell you it's just tiredness. Or stress. Or a phase. They might say you're burned out or moody. Or that you just need a break. And maybe parts of those explanations sound close, but not close enough, because burnout feels sharp. It feels loud. It feels like you're running on empty. What you're feeling feels quieter than that. Slower. Heavier. In a different way. Mood swings come and go. They rise and fall. This doesn't swing. It lingers. It settles into your days like a fog that doesn't block your vision. It just softens everything. Colors feel less bright. Music feels less deep. Time feels stretched and compressed at the same time. And you start asking yourself questions you never used to ask. What am I doing this for? Is this really me? When did I stop feeling like myself? Not in a dramatic way, in a tired, quiet way. Here's the part no one explains to you. Sometimes your mind doesn't break down. It slows down. Not because it's weak, but because it's overloaded. Not with tasks. With emotion. Things you never had time to feel. Losses you brushed past because life kept moving. Versions of yourself you outgrew, but never said goodbye to. Expectations you carried for so long that you forgot they weren't yours. None of it exploded. So it never got your full attention. It just piled up. Softly. Silently. Until one day your inner world said, "Enough." And instead of screaming, it muted itself. This isn't emptiness. It's compression. It's what happens when too much has been held in for too long. So your mind does the safest thing it knows how to do. It creates distance. From people. From feelings. From the future. Because distance feels manageable. Distance feels quiet. Distance feels like control. You might notice you don't want to explain yourself anymore. Talking feels exhausting. Not because you don't care, but because you don't have the words yet. You might feel like you're watching your life from the outside. Like you're waiting for something to restart you. And the scariest part is, you don't even know what you're waiting for. You just know you're not ready to move forward. That doesn't mean you're lost. It means something inside you is reorganizing. Think about it. When a computer overheats, it doesn't shatter. It slows. It freezes. It pauses to protect itself. Your mind does the same thing. It isn't giving up on you. It's shielding you. Shielding you from feeling everything all at once. Shielding you from making decisions while emotionally overloaded. Shielding you from becoming someone you don't recognize, just to keep going. This pause isn't empty. It's full of things that haven't had a voice yet. That's why silence feels louder lately. That's why you're drawn to being alone, but don't always enjoy it. That's why rest doesn't fully refresh you. You're not tired of life. You're tired of carrying unfinished emotional weight. And here's the part that hits deeper than most people realize. You're not who you used to be, but you haven't met who you're becoming yet. That space in between, that's where you are. It's uncomfortable because there are no labels, no clear direction. No applause. Just you slowing down without permission. You might replay conversations in your head and feel distant from the person who spoke. You might look at old photos and feel like you're looking at someone else's life. You might miss a version of yourself without knowing why. And each time you think, is something wrong with me? No, something is changing. But change doesn't always feel like movement. Sometimes it feels like suspension. Like being held in place until your inner world catches up with your outer life. That's why pushing yourself doesn't work right now. Forcing motivation feels fake. Positive talk feels hollow. Because this phase doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to patience. Not the kind of patience where you wait for results, but the kind where you stop fighting the pause. You don't need fixing. You don't need a new personality. You don't need to get back to normal. Normal has already shifted. Your mind isn't broken. It's tired of pretending it isn't tired. And it chose the only language it could use without collapsing. Stillness. So if you've been feeling disconnected but not devastated, heavy but not hopeless, quiet but not empty, this is why. You're in between chapters, and the page is blank right now. Blank doesn't mean meaningless. It means unwritten. And no one tells you how uncomfortable it is to sit in that space, to not know what comes next, to not feel ready to want anything yet. To exist without urgency. But this pause has intelligence. Even if it doesn't feel productive. It's giving your inner world time to realign. To let buried feelings surface slowly, safely. That's why rushing feels wrong. That's why distractions only work for a moment. That's why deep down, forcing clarity would be dishonest. You're not falling behind. You're catching up internally. And maybe the most important thing to hear right now is this. You don't have to understand this phase to respect it. You don't have to explain it to anyone. You don't have to justify why you're quieter. You don't have to apologize for needing space. You can't explain. This pause isn't a failure. It's a signal. A gentle one. A protective one. And one day, not suddenly, not dramatically, you'll feel a small pull forward again. Not because you forced yourself, but because something inside you finished settling. Until then, you're not lost. You're paused. And sometimes, that's exactly where you're supposed to be. And even now, as you sit with this pause, there's a quiet fear underneath it. A fear no one sees. The fear that if you stay here too long, you'll disappear. You wonder if people will forget you. If opportunities will pass. If the world will move on without waiting for you to feel ready again. So you pretend. You show up just enough. You keep things light. So no one asks questions you don't know how to answer. Because how do you explain a feeling that has no sharp edges? How do you describe a heaviness that doesn't hurt, but doesn't lift either? You tell yourself, I should be grateful. You remind yourself of what's still working. You try to logic your way out of it. But this isn't something logic dissolves. This is something that needs to be felt slowly, without being named too quickly. That's why every time you try to push past it, it pulls you back. That's why motivation fades the moment you reach for it. That's why advice feels distant, even when it's well-meaning. Your mind isn't asking for solutions. It's asking for permission. Permission to not know. Permission to not perform. Permission to exist without direction for a while. You might notice your tolerance for noise has dropped. Crowds feel heavier. Conversations feel longer than they used to. Even small decisions feel strangely exhausting. It's not because you're incapable. It's because your inner energy is being conserved. Like an animal going still before winter. Not because it's giving up on movement, but because survival requires rest first. You've been strong for longer than you realize. Not loudly strong, quietly strong. The kind of strong that absorbs, adapts, and keeps going without acknowledgement. The kind that doesn't complain. The kind that keeps saying, it's fine, until fine loses its meaning. And Now that strength is asking for relief. So it dims the lights. It slows the pace. It asks you to stop reaching outward for a moment and listen inward instead. That's why distractions don't satisfy you anymore. That's why scrolling feels empty faster. That's why silence feels uncomfortable, but also strangely honest. You're standing at the edge of an internal shift, and shifts don't announce themselves. They arrive quietly. They sit with you. They make everything feel unfamiliar. Even yourself. You might think you're regressing, but you're not moving backward. You're shedding layers. Layers of who you had to be. Layers of expectations you carried unconsciously. Layers of momentum that no longer match who you are becoming. And yes, becoming feels vague right now, because clarity doesn't come before rest. It comes after. This phase isn't meant to inspire you. It isn't meant to energize you. It isn't meant to make sense yet. It's meant to hold you still long enough for honesty to surface. Honesty about what you can no longer tolerate. Honesty about what drains you quietly. Honesty about what you've outgrown, but kept anyway. That honesty can't be rushed. So, if you find yourself doing less, wanting less, needing more space than before, that's not failure. That's alignment in progress. You're recalibrating, even if it doesn't feel intentional. And one day, you'll look back and realize this pause wasn't empty time. It was integration. It was your inner world catching its breath. It was your emotions reorganizing themselves without collapsing. It was your identity loosening its grip on who it thought it had to be. For now, all you need to know is this: you're not broken for feeling this way. You are not behind. You are not weak for needing stillness. Your silence has meaning. Your distance has purpose. Your pause has intelligence. And even if you can't see what it's preparing you for yet, something inside you knows. So let yourself stay here a little longer. Not forever, just long enough to feel whole again, without forcing it. Because when you move forward next time, it won't be out of pressure. It will be out of truth.